Hello there. Well, this is a video that I might say about this Anton Yuyu Taniyama, the Japanese patriot, or he called himself the modern day samurai of the 21st century. Well, now we have to see the history and the origins of the Ponzi scheme. The Ponzi scheme is about people getting money and says, I want to get some money, and then get ripped off. You know, it was discovered by Charles Ponzi. He might not have invented the Ponzi scheme, but I think this kind of scheme was invented in China by a certain group of people that rip off people in China. Why it is because I mentioned the Ponzi scheme has to go far, way beyond this, way before Ponzi was born. You know, people offering money or whatever it is. I think that's how it started to have a separate kingdom, even though it was supported by China, but they not consider themselves China, were the true inventors of the Ponzi scheme. You know, the Ponzi scheme was eventually, was discovered by Charles Ponzi. He might went to Chinatown, even though it started in Boston, but he got the tricks in there, have the ideas. Oh, that's where they call it the Ponzi scheme. Was an Italian con artist, setting up deals that you could gain money, fraudulent mail orders or fraudulent bank accounts and all that stuff. This is where Charles Ponzi got it. Probably it was in Boston or in New York. It all started the idea that he got that idea from Chinatown. This is where all this started. The Ponzi scheme, it is settled by, it is set true. It is what goes wonders that I think that if you look through, this would be definitely look further to a Japanese investigation that the Ponzi scheme has started in China. It wasn't called a Ponzi scheme, but it was, how the Ponzi scheme works, but that's how it started, and this is where Charles Ponzi has called it a Ponzi scheme. He was the guy that discovered it, not who invented it. This would, or I might say, you're talking about Koreans a lot, right? This is where the Ponzi scheme has started. They have settled to rip off the emperor, and they have to rip off the emperor to set up we are associated with China, but we're not China. Yeah, that means they have to rip off the emperor, all this in a Ponzi scheme form. This is where the Ponzi scheme has originated. I think the Ponzi scheme has been originated in China, and then don't take my word for it, but I think Japanese folks watching this will say, I know where it's at, and where they're trying to claim our stuff for. Yeah, this is just settling things out, and then what it is about these con artists or people that rip off people. This is where the origins of the Ponzi scheme has started. The Ponzi scheme has started by a certain group of people. That's what it is. Forming a separate identity. They just said they are associated, but they are not associated with China, but they're like separate. Their own kingdom, their own rules. What is now the separate country divided nowadays, and you know, we have trouble with the North, known as Korea. You know, this is where I think the people that invented the Ponzi scheme, you know, seems to say, yeah, those are the people, those are the troublemakers, those are the group of people that during the time before it was called the Ponzi scheme, is these people in China that has been, you know, want to be separate, new in a separate kingdom, separate governments during the Ponzi scheme, even though being controlled under China, but they're not associated. They're not like, we're separate. You know, this is where the discovery of the Ponzi scheme might start. Before Charles Ponzi has started it, he has the idea from Chinatown. You know, this is where Charles Ponzi got an idea from Chinatown. That's what it is. It's from this origins in China, from the separation of another separate land, what is now called North and South Korea. That kind of Ponzi scheme has ripped off the emperor. You know, you gotta have to rip off the people from the entire Chinese kingdom. What is this kind of people it is, just to form their own government, their own land, whatever it's called, what is now called Korea. But that's what it is of the origins of the of this Ponzi scheme before Charles Ponzi discovered it. Charles Ponzi has discovered it. He had took the idea from someone from that kind of group from Chinatown. This is where the Ponzi scheme has started. You know, and you know that's what I said. That's the truth, and that's the meaning of where Ponzi scheme has started. I think Ponzi scheme has originated in China. Ponzi scheme is the only way that where they have formed what is now called today Korea, and this is where these certain group of people we have known, even Tsai's ancestors were the first people that invented the Ponzi scheme. This might be true. I might just regret it and stuff. Sorry about that. It's true. People might do evil stuff. Don't look through saying, "Oh yeah, we never hurt a fly or whatever." Yeah, ripping people off, that's hurting a fly. You know, that ripping people off is just plain, simple, hurtful, shameful, and people that do have invented this kind of scheme, known today as a Ponzi scheme, you gotta be ashamed of yourselves. So, peace out and goodbye.